Okay, so it looks like we've got a good number of registrations now, so we'll go ahead and launch the poll. And you should be able to see our first poll here. We're trying to find out a little bit more about who's on the webinar today so we can make sure to tailor to our audience. So the first question, if you could take a minute to answer it, it is, what business intelligence solutions are you using today? Select one or more of the following: analysis and reporting, data integration / ETL, analytic database, proprietary software of any of the above, or open source software of any of the above. So we'll give you guys a couple seconds here to answer the poll. It looks like we've still got answers coming in. And it looks like we got a good number of answers, so we're going to close the poll and post the results now. Okay, so it looks like we've got a fair number of people already on the line who are using analysis and reporting, as well as data integration and ETL. But it looks like we need to spend a little more time on the analytic databases and then kind of an overview of everything else in terms of the software that's proprietary as well as open source in the solution stack. So we'll do that. And now I'll move on to the second poll. And the second poll has to do with how much experience you have had with the cloud. So when we talk about the cloud, we'll be talking about it today in the mode of infrastructure as a service. So what we mean here is cloud compute power, such as what's offered by Amazon EC2, or there's other providers such as RightScale, for instance. So that's what we're interested in understanding, how much experience you have with. So if you could go ahead and please answer these questions. If you're using the cloud today in an infrastructure as a service mode, either yes, very much with one or more serious projects, yes, at least one project evolving some importance, yes, you're starting to explore it, or you haven't done anything with it yet. Okay, we got a lot of answers on that one pretty quickly, so we're going to post the results there. Oh, and it looks like we've got also a fair number of people who are starting to test out the cloud this way, so that's great. And then we've got a good amount that probably need to maybe learn a little bit more about exactly how that works, so we will spend some time on that today, and then we can also answer additional questions at the end on that. So thank you for participating in the polls. Now we're going to move on to the webinar. My name is Elise Arthurs, and I'm Director of Partner Marketing at RightScale. And before I introduce our speakers and we get started, I just want to take care of a couple housekeeping items. During the course of the webinar, we'll have the ability to take your questions, and we'll hold them until the end when we do the live question and answer. So if you can just submit your questions in the GoToWebinar question tab as they come to you during the course of the webinar, we'll take those and we'll make sure to put them in the queue to answer. And if we don't get to them at the end of the webinar, we'll make sure to answer them via email. And now I'd like to introduce our presenters. We'll have the team from Full 360 starting things off today. And Full 360 is a global systems integration firm, and they have deep expertise in BI. They are a partner of all the software providers who have come together to produce this BI software stack that runs on the cloud. So presenting from Full 360, we have Larry Hill, the Business Development Director, and Rohit Amarnath, who's their CTO. And Larry and Rohit will both do the presentation and the demo for us. On the Q&A, we have representatives from each of the software partners. We've got Andrew Lampett from JasperSoft, Parham Parvizi from Talend, and then Yuri Budnik from RightScale, and Dave Menninger from Vertica. So we have the full team here to answer any kind of question that might come up. Great. Now we'll start the webinar, and I'll hand it over to you, Larry.
Thanks, Elise. Again, this is Larry Hill with Full 360. Let me cover the agenda for this morning. We're going to talk first about a little bit about what is the cloud and why you should consider it for your, not only for your general computing needs, but for business intelligence and analytics. Then we'll spend the bulk of the presentation on the Agile data warehouse, the various software components that make it up, and give you an idea of the pricing of it. And then we'll spend the second half of the webinar this morning on a demonstration of an Agile data mart, which is an Agile data warehouse that we've put together on an existing website. It's a live website, and we've put this together just in the past few weeks to give you an example of how quickly a data mart can be generated from scratch with the Agile data warehouse stack and methodology. We'll talk a little bit about next steps for the morning, and then we'll spend the rest of the time and potentially beyond the hour. If we have questions that people are asking, we'll continue to answer them for some time. But we'll look to wrap up the presentation, the demonstration, in at least a few minutes of the quick Q&A period in the hour allotted here this morning. So first of all, what is cloud computing? Well, in very simple terms, you can think of it as a fully equipped data center in the sky, offering virtually infinite computing resources in terms of hardware, software, services, and so forth. It's scalable on demand, and when you say on demand, that is literally within minutes or hours. You can have resources available to you to work with in high contrast to the way computing resources are typically provisioned today. You pay only by your usage. Come in and use a server and an application for an hour, and you're just paying for that usage, rather than the large capital costs that are typically incurred in a traditional computing environment. And very importantly, you have access to a highly reliable, available, and secure computing environment. Cloud computing power and storage really, it makes computing power a commodity that can be turned on and off like a household utility on demand, which is very much of a new concept in technology today. So what, in a little bit more technical sense, we like to call the cloud infrastructure as a service. Because what it gives you is an elastic computing platform across hardware, across software, support, and services. It gives you top-notch environmental management facilities, and we'll talk a little bit more later about the RightScale facility that provides that. And very importantly, it gives you pre-built application and server instances, so you don't have to go and do all of the software configurations and setup it takes to enable an application. You just turn it on and it runs. So why should you consider the cloud? First of all, and most importantly, the cloud is a game changer. It will change all of the assumptions that you have made about what is possible and what is affordable in your computing environment. Because first of all, it's fast. It's fast to order up services and applications, to instantiate them, to configure them and run the applications. And it's very fast in terms of its operation. You can scale from a single server to thousands of servers in minutes. And we have examples of users today who are doing just that, coming onto the cloud with just a few servers and then bumping up to thousands of servers in order to service tens of thousands of users. It's also lower cost because the cloud vendors, and we'll be talking today about our partner Amazon Web Services, these vendors buy and provision computing capacity in very large volumes, and their business models are all about market share, which means that they are passing most of the savings that they are getting from these volume purchases on to you. It also means that they've become very good at provisioning and can do it in such an efficient fashion that they can offer the combination to you at a very low price. And I think you'll see some prices today that will surprise you. So wouldn't it be interesting to be able to cut your costs, your overall computing costs, while you actually improve your service level, something that's kind of contrary to the environment that we've all been in here in this rocky market for the last 18 months. And then finally, it's very, very flexible. You can rent a server for a month or up to 3 years. You can change server sizes as necessary to accommodate the peaks. You can spin up new servers. You can shut them down based on demand. And what we'll show you today is you can have all of this done automatically in the background by your environmental management application that is always watching to see what your response times, your peak loads are, and so forth, and can match your computing power to your requirements automatically. So why use the cloud for business intelligence? Well, it's a game changer in the same way. Imagine being able to build analytic sandboxes for your users in just a matter of a few hours, or a finished data mart, as you'll see in the demonstration today, in just a few weeks, as opposed to the months or even years that it takes with traditional computing environments and applications. It's very much lower cost, not just because of the low cost of the cloud, but there's a new generation of software out there today that comprise the stack of the Agile Data Warehouse, many of whom have come from the open source world and have pricing points that are much more affordable than many of the traditional vendors that are in the marketplace today. You put these two together and you have a level of affordability that was simply not available in the market before now. And what it allows you to do is experiment with previously unaffordable applications. Everybody in business intelligence and analytics has got that application that they know that would be of high utility to the executives or the users in their company, but it's simply been too big or too expensive to run. Change your assumptions about those and look into those again, because the cloud is a game changer. It's also flexible in terms of, imagine putting out disposable data marts for users. Data marts that have a lifetime of maybe just a few days or a few weeks. You can do seasonal projects, whether it's around budgeting and forecasting, quarter-end close, year-end closes. You can spin up analytic applications and data marts and then dispose of them when they're no longer being used. So it allows you to start very small as well and inexpensively to prototype applications and then see what kind of justification there is in your company for an expansion, and then scale it up to whatever level of requirements you might have right across either your enterprise or out onto the web for your clients. So all of this is encapsulated in the Agile Data Warehouse, which we'll introduce to you today. The Agile Data Warehouse is a stack of market-leading vendors on a single cloud platform running on Amazon services. Starting at the top, Jaspersoft, which is, might surprise you, is the most widely used business intelligence in the world. Vertica, which is a next-generation, high-performance analytic database. Talend, which is the recognized leader in open-source data integration. And then RightScale, the leader in cloud computing management. And then, as I mentioned before, all of this running on Amazon's Web Services platform, which is the leading cloud computing infrastructure in the market today. Now, I'm going to say a little bit about each one of the vendors in turn here in the stack, starting off with Amazon Web Services, our infrastructure as a service. Most of you are probably familiar with Amazon.com. It is a $15 billion mission-critical, real-time online transaction processing system today. They've been building it out for 13 years now, and they've got it honed to a level of efficiency not seen in most computing environments. And just a few years ago, they decided to share this environment with the world as Amazon Web Services cloud platform. And it has grown to the point where now Amazon Web Services, AWS here, has 30% more computing capacity than the entire Amazon retail website does. And it is growing at literally by leaps and bounds. There's two key components of Amazon Web Services that we'll be utilizing as part of the Agile Data Warehouse. The first is the Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, or EC2. The second is the Amazon Simple Storage Service, also known as S3. Let me give you an idea of the pricing, very aggressive pricing that Amazon provides for their cloud computing. Standard Linux instances start at just 8.5 cents an hour, and these are on-demand prices, so you can come in for just an hour or two or three for just 8.5 cents an hour for a good-sized server. Very large, what they call high CPU instances, start at 17 cents an hour. And if you are willing to make a commitment for an entire month for a server, they will cut that price even further. So the 8.5 cents for an entire month goes down to 3 cents an hour. Now, these are the prices that are available through the Agile Data Warehouse that the Agile Data Warehouse would utilize. We don't actually resell Amazon. This is a straight pass-through. We're not doing any uplift on these prices. And I would encourage you to go take a look at Amazon's website for AWS, which is aws.amazon.com. They have their full price list and a very complete explanation of all of their services on that website. So the first software vendor in the stack here is RightScale. RightScale is all about cloud management. They give you total control of the entire computing environment, complete visibility at all levels, all servers, instances, applications, users. You're able to manage, monitor, and troubleshoot everything all from a single console. They offer administration of multiple users, multiple groups of users with access control and user permissioning. And really what they provide is a fast on-ramp to the cloud with server templates and best practices to get you up and going in a real hurry with your cloud computing application. So you can think of them as an abstraction layer to manage the cloud. And if you'd like to know more about RightScale, check out their website at rightscale.com. So a quick glimpse of what RightScale looks like in operation. This is one of their screens, and you can see Apache requests from one of the servers there. It's starting to peak up. And on the lower graph there, you can see the point where load begins to exceed a given threshold that was preset into the system. RightScale will automatically bring additional servers online, and you can see them become operational. The load drops back down. And then as the morning peak wanes towards 10:15, load drops below a certain threshold, and those additional servers are terminated, saving money. So RightScale can sit in the background, and this is just one aspect of what it does, but it can sit in the background, monitor your environment, and make sure that the appropriate computing resources are always applied for your applications. So now we'll take a look at Talend for data integration. Talend is the leading provider of open source data integration software. They have a venture-backed commercial model, so at the low end there is an open source, widely available application. They commercialize that to enterprise level and with greater levels of functionality and service. And they are very solidly backed by venture capital. They have a worldwide operation and users. And they have optional data quality and MDM modules we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. And they've enjoyed a very broad adoption around the world with over 1.5 million core product downloads, 7 million lifetime. They count over 300,000 users and 1,000 paying customers around the world. So they're in very broad use today. If you'd like to know a little bit more about them, it's www.talend.com. And again, I should mention for the first time here, this PowerPoint will be available to anyone who requests it after the webinar this morning. So you don't have to be taking quick notes. You can simply contact us for a copy. So taking a look quickly at Talend in operation here. Talend is a business-oriented process modeling application. Very graphical. All of the development is done graphically. It provides very robust and scalable execution, a very broad connectivity to support all systems. They have over 400 connectors that are available free of charge as part of their core product. They offer a project repository for design and execution and real-time debugging, and we will see them in operation in just a few minutes in the demonstration today. So now Vertica. Vertica is a next-generation analytic database management system, and we've been very excited about Vertica for a number of years. We were introduced to them a few years ago by venture capitalists, and this next generation of columnar databases has great promise for the business intelligence community. Because they index on columns rather than rows, they're able to perform queries and reports much more quickly than a traditional database can. But very importantly, they provide or they offer a standard SQL interface. So all of your applications, all of your business intelligence tools and so forth that you may currently be running will run just fine with Vertica. They also have a scale-out, massively parallel processing architecture so that they can scale across multiple servers to just about any size of compute power that you need. they use very aggressive data compression because they're a columnar database. There's typically a lot of redundancy and duplication in columns. When you think of the kind of data that's in a data warehouse, you have state or region, district, that sort of thing, and a lot of the columns that tends to be repeated. They're able to compress all of that out and operate even faster because of that compression. They can also load the database and allow you to continue querying at the same time, all real-time loading and querying, so you don't have to shut the data warehouse down or applications down to load data, which, as you'll see from one of the examples we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is very interesting in terms of being able to do real-time analysis on market data feeds. They have automatic tuning, high availability and recovery, and they run on Linux, VMware, or the Amazon cloud. So what you can think of them as is a modern database for business intelligence and analytics. And again, some more information there at www.vertica.com. We've got two selected Vertica case studies for you today. One from Verizon, which is a call detail record analysis where they used to have two people trudging through just a week's worth of data because it is so massive. You can imagine the call detail records that are involved with Verizon. Average response time on the reports they were running was 30 minutes. When they switched that over to a Vertica analytic database, they were able to expand from 1 week to 8 months of data, 32 times more data, ramp up to over 100 users across the enterprise, and cut the response time down to 30 seconds on average. Pretty dramatic change in terms of, or in relation to a relational database. And then a Tier 1 bank for securities compliance audit analysis. They were running 30 reports a day. The average took 37 minutes each, and they were only able to operate on a previous day's data. When they moved to Vertica, the response time for those reports went down to 9 seconds. They were running more like 1,000 a day on data that was just a minute old, which is essentially real-time view in terms of business intelligence and analytics. So vast improvement in terms of data availability and allowing them to catch occurrences in the marketplace that they really needed to see today and able to fix them while the market is still open as opposed to next day things. So at the top of our stack now is JasperSoft. JasperSoft is the most widely used business intelligence in the world. It is also, like Talent, a commercial open source model. It offers analysis and reporting, dashboards. You can do pixel-perfect reports or ad hoc queries in JasperSoft. And what it allows and what it provides for the Agile data warehouse is powerful, easy analysis and reporting. It has a very flexible architecture for either standalone use or embedded use in other applications. And it is highly affordable, with over 9 million copies downloaded. So you can get some more information on them at jaspersoft.com. Now we also have a couple of optional features available for the Agile data warehouse. First of all is master data management, which is provided by Talent, as well as data quality management offered by Talent. And if you are looking to do predictive analytics, statistical processing, graphical reports and so forth, we offer the R programming, the open source R programming language. So now a little bit about Full 360. Full 360 is a systems integrator based in New York City. We have over 14 years of experience in the analytic data warehousing environment, from top 10 global financial institutions all the way down to emerging websites and software vendors. We've run the whole range in terms of reporting, analytics, OLAP, statistical applications across a very broad range of clients over the last 14 years. We are a worldwide operation with personnel in the United States here, in India, and Singapore. We were one of Amazon's inaugural systems integration partners for the Amazon Web Services offer. And we're the primary integrator for Agile Data Warehouse partners here. So essentially we will provide the Agile Data Warehouse to you. We can sell it to you just like software on the cloud if you want to implement it yourself, or we will give you any level of service and support in terms of implementing that data warehouse that you might need to get up in a hurry. And our website, again, is www.full360.com. So a little bit about pricing here before we move on to the demonstration. The offer that you might have seen in the emails that went out, it's just $1,500 a month for the entire Agile data warehouse stack, and that is a special offer through March 31st of this year. What that gets you is a Jasper server for your business intelligence and analytics, 100 gigabytes of Vertica database for both deployment and development, Talon data integration, and then the RightScale application for the entire data warehouse environment. Now, you may also be wondering what the cloud charges would be in addition to that $1,500 essentially software cost. So the cloud capacity through Amazon Web Services, we recommend a configuration with essentially three servers or 3 Amazon machine instances for the Agile data warehouse. If you took a medium-sized machine with an on-demand price of just 17 cents an hour, each of those machines would be just about a little under $125 a month each. Times 3, you're under $500 a month. Amazon storage is $10 a month per 100 gigabytes or $100 a month for a terabyte of data. So if you add in the 100 gigabytes that comes bundled with the Agile data warehouse, you're under $500 a month at on-demand pricing, not at reserved instance pricing. So you get this entire package here delivered on the web for less than $2,000 a month. This configuration can support over 200 BI users, so you're essentially at a cost of about $10 a user for this kind of implementation. I think you'll probably find that it's difficult to find in the marketplace just a BI vendor that would offer you their software for $10 a month per user, as opposed to an entire data warehouse stack delivered to you on the cloud in working condition. So let's switch over here. I'm going to put my partner here, Rohit Amarnath, on. He's the Chief Technology Officer of Full 360, and he's going to go through the demonstration of the Agile data warehouse this morning.
Thank you, Larry. So I just want to get settled here quickly. Okay. So the data mart that we built out was for a project that we launched just a few weeks ago, and we figured it would be a very good way to demonstrate the capabilities of the Agile data warehouse. The website's called Give a Tweet. It's online, giveatweet.com, and it's basically a charitable donation matching website around the Twitter social network. So anybody can donate and match donations for about 1.1 million nonprofits. There are 5 data sources that we are pulling in for the website. This includes Twitter data, of course. We also have data coming in from CouchDB, which is a NoSQL database for the site. We have MySQL, which is the transaction store for the database. And then we have IRS data on nonprofits that's coming in from the IRS website. And our intention for the website is, and the data mart, is really to support the needs of a community manager looking at the website and managing the community on the website, and give them insight into the nonprofits that are on there, and be able to look at things like revenue, number of followers, tweets, the type of charity, and whether they're registered on Twitter or on our site. And the eventual goal is really to take that and be able to give that ability to the public to be able to research nonprofits that are on Twitter. So be able to scale that to the public. Okay, so let me switch over. So very quickly, I'm going to go to the website so you have a feel for the data and what we're talking about. This is the Give a Tweet website. It's actually very, very simple to use. So if I wanted to go and donate to a nonprofit, type in Red Cross, and I can look for the American Red Cross. And note all the data that we're looking at on this page for Red Cross is not in the mart. This is actually live data in CouchDB and MySQL. So some of the data is coming in from the IRS, for example, the date that they were established, their address, and the rest of it, a good chunk of it is coming from Twitter. So, what their accounts are, what the URL is, and all their tweets. And the last piece of that is the donations that people have made to Red Cross. So it's very simple to make a donation. So I can give $10 to the Red Cross and pick a matcher, in this case full 360. So when this donation actually goes through, Red Cross gets 20 instead of 10. It's a very, very simple but powerful method. Of course, if you guys are willing and able, I suggest some of these people donate to charities that are helping in Haiti after the webinar. So let's take a look at some of the reports that a community manager might use to help grow the site. So I'm going to flip over to our JasperSoft server. I'm going to refresh this, make sure I can connect. Okay, so here's the JasperSoft Business Intelligence Server that's producing these reports, the most widely used BI server in the world. And we have an IRS Form 990 data dashboard, which is basically a form that's submitted by all the nonprofits to the IRS, and all the data on those forms are made public. On the left-hand side, we have the nonprofit data aggregated by the various categories that are available. So IRS categorizes all these nonprofits into different types of nonprofits, arts and culture, museums, etc. On the right-hand side, we have some Twitter information about the nonprofits that we know about that are on Twitter. So we know there are about 2,700 nonprofits. In fact, there are a lot more, but the ones that we know about are about 2,700, and we have about 237 registered on GiveATweet. We also have a view into how many followers they have, and we also can see, how active these folks are. We also have a map for to see the split across all the states. And if we look very quickly, I think California has the largest number of nonprofits, making them a state of lots of do-gooders. So now, a good way to measure an influence of a person on Twitter is to see how many followers that they have. And for a community manager, this is very, very interesting information to be able to see who's got the most followers and really look at how they might be able to get them involved in the site. And for followers of nonprofits are very, very vocal and energetic, and the nonprofits themselves tend to be very, very influential in the Twitter world. So let's look at some IRS categories in this report. Let's take an example that happened this week and see how this data might be used by a manager of the site. This Monday was Follow a Museum Monday, which asked people to go out and follow their favorite museum and get the word out there that museums were on Twitter. So let's look for museums over here. And as you can see, the dashboards all got filtered based on the selections I made. So I can tell there are about 3,000 museums on the IRS list, of which we have about 29 that are on Twitter that we know about, and 2 that are registered for GiveATweet. So I can click on that, and it actually takes me to a detailed report, which shows me that there are these are the two museums that we have in our system, and I can actually link straight to their website from here. And now we know about the Everhart Museum. It's Follow a Museum Monday, so let's follow them, and maybe start a conversation with Everhart about about their involvement with the Give a Tweet. And of course, we get to see a very cool logo sculpture there. Okay, so all the reports that we have here have been created using a Jaspersoft product called iReport, and these are pixel-perfect reports that you can put together very quickly. And we've only really touched the surface of what that tool can do for you. Now, we can also do multiple things within Jaspersoft, like creating ad hoc reports and analyzing your results. But really, that's for another webinar, because that's topics by themselves. Just to let you know, those reports only took a few days to create once we had the data in place. Now on to the Agile Data Warehouse infrastructure under these reports. The first thing we need for the Agile Data Warehouse in the cloud is to start the virtual servers. So we're going to go over to our RightScale console. I want to make sure I can log in. And what we've done with the Agile Data Warehouse is made it very, very simple to start up the entire stack and do that very, very quickly. And I'm going to run through this pretty quickly in the interest of time. But we have follow-up webinars and webinars by RightScale that can show you exactly what's going on under the hood for some of these things. So I'm going to run a macro for the full 360 data warehouse stack, which will start up my Talend, Jaspersoft, and Vertica servers. Give it a name. And very quickly, I have a deployment that's ready to go in terms of servers and configuration for my Agile Data Warehouse stack. So let's take a look at that. I have my 3 servers ready to go, the Jaspersoft Pro, Talend Repository, and Vertica. I can go in and change the environment for which it starts up with, and make sure that, and pass in parameters to make sure when the servers come up, they're properly configured. So I'm going to change one setting here. Most of this is pre-configured. Set the SSH key, save it, and now I'm going to run the servers. So I'm going to select all of them and start selected. And as you can see on the left-hand side, this has kicked off all my 3 servers that I want to start up in the web on the cloud. And what it's actually doing is RightScale is starting these instances in Amazon on our behalf. And it'll go through and let us know how the progress is. We can look at audit entries, history of this deployment, and if there are any issues. So while that's running, let's take a look at the next big thing is how do you get data into this environment. So to review, we have 4 data sources. The first one is the IRS data source, and what that has is it's basically 4 files for each part of the region, which is updated on a monthly basis. So the last update was on January 28th. And we have about 1.5 million nonprofits that are on the IRS website. The second data source is CouchDB, which is a very, very fast NoSQL database, which underlies the site and produces some of the pages very quickly. The format of this data is in JSON, which is JavaScript object notation. And we have data in MySQL, tables that manage the actual transactions that are happening on the site. We also have data coming in from log files for the website to see clickstream data. So, how do we get all these different data sets and data formats into our platform? Our tool of choice is Talent Data Integration, and Larry's spoken about that previously. And I'm going to go through some of the jobs that we've run and built to process this data into the mart. So the first job we have is the download and find changed data job, which is basically a job that goes out to the IRS website, gathers the files, and finds any changed information. We have a process IRS data job that picks up where the last one finished and processes the data to create files that we can load into Vertica. We have a fairly sophisticated job that runs to load and the data that comes out of Twitter. So it actually goes out to Twitter and picks up new information about the users that are on Twitter and are in our system, and also produces a file that can be loaded into Vertica. The last job we have is a fairly simple one around moving data from MySQL to Vertica. Now, I'm going to run a couple of jobs so you can see how it looks. And of course, I'm going through this pretty quickly in the interest of time, but we can definitely follow up and show detail in subsequent webinars. So this is running right now. It shows me in real time how many rows are being processed. And in this case, it's pulling data from JSON. It's pulling data from the IRS feed that we already downloaded. It enriches the IRS data with information that we have on our website. It does some lookups to convert some codes, and produces two files that we can load into Vertica. This actually gets zipped up and uploaded to the server, and we can then do a local upload into Vertica on the server. Now, what I have here is jobs running through the IDE. But if you actually want to run this as a independent job, we have something that's a job that takes the file that was uploaded to the server, unpacks it, and loads it into Vertica. And while the marketing folk cringe, I'm actually going to go to the command line and do that. And there you go. So this is a job that I exported, and it's completely self-contained. It's got everything it needs. All I do is run the job, and as you can see, that it just loaded 15,000 records, and in a few seconds more, it'll load the rest of the million records that we have. So let's move on to the last part, or the last component that we have in here, which is Vertica. And to show Vertica, let's go back to the web. And this is the Vertica administration screen. Now, as Larry's mentioned, Vertica is the next generation business intelligence and data warehousing database. And there's a lot of benchmarks that are being made about how fast it is and how quick Vertica is. And what I really want to show you today is not that aspect of Vertica, but how easy it is to configure and tune. There are a lot less knobs and dials that we have to tweak to make it run really fast. So let's go and show how I tuned the data for Give a Tweet. So we created database design, and what the Vertica has is this very intelligent database designer that basically acts on three pieces of information and produces a database designed for the most optimal retrieval performance. The three pieces of it are, let's create a new design. I'm actually going to ask it to look at my queries. So the first aspect of the database designer looks at is the table structure. So it actually looks and sees which tables are needed and how they're structured for the queries. So I've selected the tables that I know that are being used. I'm going to choose the table that's the fact table, which has the data for the numerical values. And the second piece the designer looks at is the statistics around what's in the tables themselves. So I'm going to ask it to look at the statistics as well. And the last part of it is the queries that we're going to run against the Vertica database. And basically what Vertica will do now, the database designer will do, is take a look at those three things: the structure, the data that's in the tables, and the SQL that's being run, and produce a design that it'll automatically deploy for me so that any subsequent queries will be very, very quick. So this is running that process now. Here it's fine looking at the data in the tables. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's reading the queries from the SQL that I produced. And it's finished the design. So very, very quickly, I've been able to tell what makes up the reports that are coming out of Vertica, and it's produced a design that can be used and tuned within Vertica. And that kind of concludes my spiel and demonstration, and I'm going to hand it back to Larry for next steps and other things. And of course, if you have any technical questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Hi, folks. Just a couple of next steps here in ways you can follow up with full 360, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Some of you have asked online about recordings of the webinar, and they will be available on the RightScale website here in their info center webinars. You can go direct off this link, or just find your way to the RightScale website in their info center. Any further inquiries or questions? I mean, we're going to spend as much time as you would like with us here this morning answering questions for the next at least 10 minutes and perhaps 20, 30 beyond that. But if you'd like to follow up in more detail, perhaps do a conference call directly with Rohit and I, you can contact me at the phone number there on the screen, and or email me at larryhill@full360.com. We also have some upcoming Agile partner events, the TDWI in Las Vegas on February 21st through 26th, and then the Cloud Expo in New York City, April 19th through the 21st. We will be at those, and look forward to seeing those of you who will be attending. Let's see. I think let's jump over now to the Q&A. We've got about 10 minutes left in the hour. Elisa, if you want to take the lead on that.
Great. All right. Thanks, Larry and Rohit. That was a great overview and demo. And we were getting a lot of questions as you were going through the information. And I just want to remind everyone, if you do have questions, go ahead and submit them in that question tab, and we'll try and get to them in the next 10 minutes, or we'll definitely get to them after the webinar ends via email. So I'm going to start with the question that we received for Jaspersoft. So Andrew, can you go ahead and read and answer that question?
Sure. Thank you, Elise. It says it's about the version 3.7 of Jaspersoft that was launched a couple weeks ago. It says, I saw Jaspersoft launching version 3.7, so is Jaspersoft in-memory OLAP in Jasper Server or Jasper Analysis? So I'd like to clear up, I think there's a little bit of confusion. I can kind of lay that out for you. So Jaspersoft provides two different ways to do analysis, and it depends really particularly on the use case that the customer wants to solve. So Jasper Analysis is a ROLAP engine, and that's kind of the superset product that goes on top of Jasper Server. So Jasper Analysis with ROLAP provides the ability to do analysis and interact with the data that's going to be on a data warehouse or a data mart, for example, like Vertica, and many situations you have a star schema mapped to that. Of course, Vertica doesn't require that, which is one of the beauties of it. Now, Jasper Server, on the other hand, is something you can use for in-memory analysis to interact with data where you do not have such dimensions defined, such as a star schema or a snowflake schema for a data warehouse or a data mart. In that situation, you are probably just going to suck some data into memory from whatever source system to try to understand what are the interesting dimensions for analysis. That's it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andrew. Now we'll move on to the question that we had come in for Talon. So Parham, can you go ahead and read and answer that question?
Sure. One of the questions we have is what APIs are available to move my in-house applications data into the cloud? As we're seeing on the demo, Talon's got over 300 plus connectors that are available to you to do any data movement. And these connectors really lie to quite large range. I mean, we can handle from anything from files, flat files, XML files, et cetera, to moving data from databases. We support almost every database out there, MySQL, Oracle, all other databases, and you'll be able to take that data from those databases also and put it into your cloud application, as well as business applications like Salesforce, Microsoft AX, Sugar. All those applications are also available.
Okay, great. Now we've got another question that came in for Vertica. So Dave, can you go ahead with that one, please?
Sure. I'm actually going to combine two different questions. There's a question about how Vertica compares to Sybase IQ and a question about how it compares to distributed databases. I think the best way to answer it is to tackle both of those in one. So Vertica is both a columnar and an MPP database architecture. And it's really the combination of those two things that takes the best of both worlds and gives you the maximum efficiency for a given unit of hardware that you're going to deploy to run your data warehouse. And so Sybase IQ is a columnar database, but it's not distributed. It's not an MPP architecture. And other distributed databases are MPP architectures, but they're not necessarily columnar. So it's the combination of those two things at the highest level which creates the most obvious and most significant differentiation between the different products that are available in the market. So I'll try and keep it at a high level so we can move through other questions.
Okay. And now we've got a question about RightScale. So Yuri, can you go ahead with that? Yuri, if you're on mute, you need to unmute. We can't hear you. Okay, are you there?
Yeah, okay, so you can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I guess I was muted. So I have a question here that I think, this is Yuri from RightScale speaking. I have a question here that I think is looking for clarification about how is RightScale part of business intelligence. Think of RightScale as a cloud management platform. RightScale is being used by Vertica, Talon, Jaspersoft, and you saw Rohit demonstrating this to very quickly be able to build up a BI environment without having to know how to expertly configure and set up everything. So RightScale is the orchestration layer behind all these different pieces that makes it all work together a lot easier. A lot of that automation so that you don't have to set things up manually yourself. But you still have access to all the things that you would have if you had a server underneath your desk and you wanted to work on it that way.
Okay, Good. And now a question came in for full 360. So Larry or Rohit, can you go ahead and answer that one, either one of you?
Okay. I think there's a question on around security and how we manage security. That's probably the #1 question we get most of the time around BI and how we protect the data that we have. So we have multiple levels of security that we're building out. At the lowest level, we configure the instances as just enough OS, so they're very, very thin Linux instances. And on top of that, we make sure that we have a significant firewall, which is IP tables based around the instances. And we can do additional things like encrypted drives and encrypted VPN connections to your site. And I think RightScale has some options there if Yuri wants to add to that.
Sure. Thank you, Rohit. As you said, we get the question about security all the time. And I think security is a little bit of a boogeyman at the moment for companies considering the cloud. Once you really dive in and you look at it, there's different aspects of security to consider, but in my opinion, it's not a markedly different thing than security in your own data center versus security on the cloud. And let me tell you what I mean for the people on this phone call. Think about, take an inventory of your company. What are your existing security policies? Do you have one? And what are your procedures? And can you replicate those in the cloud? It's very likely that you can either do that or follow something that maintains the original objectives of that. And when you look at Amazon specifically, for example, realize that they have the ability and in fact do keep a lot of security experts on staff for protecting things like network security, DNS security, disk drive security, scrubbing disk drives after they change instances, and all the things that are very expensive for a company to do in-house, to have multiple disciplines of security that you're maintaining. If you have your own data center, do you have the same kind of physical access security that they do, where they only let very few people access? Do you really turn off your contractors' access to your data center immediately after you terminate a contract with them, for example? So I would say look at what you're doing today and see if you're really doing the best possible job you can, and then look at whether you can replicate the same kind of approaches. Having done this for quite a while, we've seen that from a practical standpoint, if you're comfortable with what you're doing today in your own operations, you can achieve the same kind of results in the cloud as well.
Okay, great. And actually, we have one more question since Yuri and Rohit and Larry, you're on the deck here. It's about RightScale and full 360 and just clarifying the roles between the two companies. So either Yuri or Larry, do you want to answer that one?
I think I'll let Larry take that one.
Yeah, hi. Well, you know, at a base level, we're partners. RightScale is the software that runs on the web that allows us to set up control and administration facilities for the Agile data warehouse. So if you think of RightScale as you do with the various other software vendors in the stack, it's simply software that we've configured and set up in the Agile data warehouse to perform certain actions. RightScale and Full 360 are good partners. We're an integration firm, and we do a fair bit of work with RightScale. So really, that's the relationship there. I think I'll go back. Rohit, anything you want to add to that, or?
No, I think that's good. I mean, really, it's around managing, and it depends on what level of involvement you want from our side. If we're just providing the Agile data warehouse as a stack and you're doing the work putting it together, then you go into RightScale and do that kind of stuff. If it's at the other end of the spectrum and we're building it and managing it for you, then you don't have to worry about it, and we'll take care of the interface with RightScale.
One thing I would add to that is either way that it works, whether you do it yourself or we do it for you or some blend in between, you will always have full access to all of the various facilities as if you owned the software, as if you had licensed it directly. So all administrative and technical details and capabilities within the software would be available to you, and in addition to us if you had us doing work for you.
Great. Okay. Well, it is the top of the hour, but we still have over 200 people on the line and lots of questions. So why don't we go through another round on the questions? Andrew, why don't you start with the next JasperSoft-based question?
Sure. Thank you, Elise. It's great that so many people are still on. So this one's about doing the ad hoc reporting in JasperSoft. How does JasperSoft deliver business terms to end users for querying, since I presume the Vertica data model is still technical columns, tables, joins, etc.? So yes, JasperSoft delivers a semantic layer that abstracts and shields the business user from the technical jargon underneath. So we call those domains, and those are typically set up by someone in the organization that's a little bit more technical, that knows what SQL is and knows how that maps to the logical business terms. And so once they set up that layer, then the business person can come along, whether it's a VP or a salesperson, and they can freely and very easily create their own reports on the fly. That's it.
Okay. Good. Now we'll move on to the next question for Talend. Parham, can you go ahead and answer that one?
Sure. We got a number of questions around deployment and scheduling, seems like, and overall architecture. The question is particularly, does Talend provide a scheduler to run the jobs? Yes, the Talend server actually comes with the full scheduling and monitoring console as far as our architecture goes. After a job's designed through the designer, you can actually go on the admin console, which is available on the server, and schedule the jobs to run periodically or based on triggers. Triggers being maybe even actually a file appearing on one of the data sources, or data coming actually through the database, data getting inserted into the database, etc. Those can actually launch or trigger a job. That I pass on to the next question.
Okay, so that would be for Vertica. Dave, if you'll go ahead.
Sure. So I'm going to follow up somewhat on the question that Andrew answered and talk about data modeling. There's a question about whether Vertica requires any particular type of schema. Earlier in Vertica's life, we did start with a requirement for a star schema, but that requirement was relaxed or eliminated several releases ago. So there are no particular requirements on how you structure your database. We support all the different types of modeling you might choose to use. We have one customer that has thousands of tables in their schema, so perfectly comfortable with highly denormalized schemas as well as star schemas. Highly normalized schemas as well as star schemas or snowflake schemas. But the other point to make is that, like the abstraction that Andrew was referring to, there is a separation in Vertica between the physical storage and the logical storage. So you create tables just like you would in any SQL database technology, and that technology that Rohit demonstrated creates the underlying physical columnar structures. So while some knowledge of that is helpful, it's not required that you understand the details of the physical storage of the system. So flexible data modeling and some assistance in terms of helping you create the physical storage of the data.
Okay, thanks for that, Dave. And now on to the next RightScale question, Yuri.
Thank you, Elise. I'm going to tackle, actually I'm going to combine a couple of questions here about some regulatory stuff. I just want to say one last thing about security. It's a very broad topic, and you can go deep on any one of the different areas. So for those of you that are concerned, just open up a discussion with Larry or with somebody from RightScale. I've never seen a project where everything else works except there's a technological showstopper in the security area. But it's very hard to, I see more questions scrolling by. It's really hard to address all of those in the limited time we have. So I just wanted to say that last thing on security. Now, there's two questions here I'm going to combine. One says, how about PCI compliance? And the other one is about HIPAA, the Health Insurance Privacy and Portability Act. We have customers today that are both we have some customers that are PCI compliant, some that are HIPAA compliant. I don't know if we have one that is both. It very much gets into the details. In the PCI compliance, we have a customer that's running their entire environment in the cloud, but they kept one server in their own data center with a credit card info to make it PCI compliant, for example. So it's definitely possible to achieve it. And once again, there's many ways to skin the cat here. We'd love to get into the specific conversation with you to understand your needs and how to address them. On HIPAA, we have a customer that what they do is they scrub the names from the records they're keeping in the cloud so that they are compliant with the way the law works. They're not keeping any personally identifiable information about those customers, and then they just match them up with the serial numbers with the names later when they need to do that. So yeah, there's many ways to address this, and we love getting into the specifics with people that have those requirements.
Okay. Thanks, Yuri. We don't like to skin cats very often, though. I hate to think of that. But anyway, moving along to a question for full 360. Please go ahead, Larry or Rohit.
Yep. So I think there are a few questions around curiosity around GiveATweet itself. One of the questions was how long it took to, from kind of concept to launch, how long it took us to do that. The GiveATweet website is a service. It's a free service and it's our way of giving back to the community. So we have developers working on it, but not full time. And we basically thought of how we could give back, and the GiveATweet idea probably in August of last year, and put the site together and launched in early Jan. And the data mart after that, of taking all that data and putting the reports, etc., took us about a week and a half.
Okay. Well, we still have a lot of people on. We're still near the 200 mark here in terms of people who are on the line. So why don't we go for one more round, and then we'll wrap it up. And again, the recording of the webinar can be found on RightScale's website that was posted on the slide there. So why don't we start with the next question for JasperSoft?
Sure, thanks, Elise. So this question is about JasperSoft itself, the entity. So it says, I've certainly heard of JasperSoft, but how can you claim most widely deployed business intelligence solution in the world? Yeah, actually, as Larry pointed out, it is surprising to some folks, but then it makes a lot of sense once you look at the numbers and the model of JasperSoft. So we have more than, actually, I think it's more than 10 million downloads now. Larry had the slide up that said 9 million. And we have more than 10,000 customers. And if you extrapolate that into deployments, an extremely conservative estimate is around 150,000 deployments. And if you look at the leading proprietary deployments out there, they're typically citing numbers of perhaps as many as 60,000 or 70,000, but nothing that comes close to those projected numbers for JasperSoft.
Okay. Well, thanks for the more additional information around that number. It's good to know that. All right. So Param, we've got another one for Talent.
This question is also semi-general around architecture. There was a question about data volumes. How does Talent handle large data volumes, and also really if Talent could be used to move data from in-house applications as well as the data that's already on the cloud? The answer to the first question is what we do at Talent, we have this concept of execution servers. These are servers that could be added on demand or on the fly to actually handle the load, or actually can be, these are the actual servers that actually run a job. Through the administrator, someone could really spin off multiple of these servers, kind of load balance their jobs through these servers so they could potentially scale up to be able to handle larger volumes. Also, as well as their question of can I use Talent to move their data, from in-house applications as well as the applications that are already on the cloud. Of course, these execution servers, the servers that actually run the jobs, could be, used to pull the data from in-house, or could be installed actually on an in-house machine and be used to move the data then up to the cloud, or be installed on actually another client, another server on the cloud to get that data from there. So both ways is possible as well.
Okay.
and all that.
Good. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No problem.
Okay. So Dave, there's one for Vertica. Can you go ahead with that one?
Sure. So I'm going to tackle a question about how Vertica scales across multiple server instances, and that'll also let me speak to a little bit of the differentiation versus, there's another question about how Vertica is different from Netezza. So Vertica is aware and able to incorporate multiple server instances into a single logical instance of the database. So you query the database as if it's one machine, and Vertica understands how to split that workload among different machines. All the different instances are peers, so you can query any node, you can load data into any node. And fundamentally what we do is we take the largest tables and we split those tables across the multiple instances. Again, this is all done for you behind the scenes. The smaller tables we typically copy to each of the instances. Just makes it a little easier. You do, have more local activity on the machine than moving things across the network connections. But so fundamentally, large tables get split across the multiple servers. Small tables get replicated to each of the servers. And then in terms of how that differs from what Netezza does, first of all, Netezza is not a columnar architecture. It's a row-based architecture. So back to my earlier comment, you get better performance out of the columnar architectures. And secondly, Netezza incorporates a proprietary hardware structure. So this Amazon and cloud-based instances is exactly a reason why you want to leverage commercial or commodity hardware instances. You can go to Amazon and just have another node added to your cluster, whereas with a Netezza proprietary-based hardware application, you've got to wheel in another piece of Netezza hardware. You've got to get it attached and hooked up and running and so forth. So those are some of the key differences between Netezza and how we handle multiple server instances.
And perhaps as a closing comment, following on that, Dave, it's Andrew from JasperSoft speaking, is that you do have the option, run all this in the cloud. That's great to get things up and running, and you might leave things up there as well. You do have the option to bring it down back on premise. You have both options, on premise or in the cloud, for all of this stuff.
Okay, good. Well, it looks like we've got another question for RightScale here. Yuri, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I'm going to paraphrase this one a little bit. I think the question is about, do you need to be in the U.S. or can you use this from other countries? And Larry, I'm going to give a RightScale answer here, so if you want to add something to it, please do so. Because of the nature of the way the software works for us, we're agnostic on where you're running it from. So yeah, you don't need to be specifically in the continental U.S. To be using this, since you're accessing the stuff for the web. I'll leave Larry to discuss about how they help you set up your BI projects. And to the gentleman from Mexico that posed that question, I speak Spanish, so I'm very happy to have a conversation about the details with you if you want.
Gracias.
Okay, good. Well, so now let's get a question in here for full 360. Why don't we go ahead, Larry, and Rohit with that one?
Yeah, there was a question about what is required to migrate or convert existing in-house technology to Amazon. And I would say, generally speaking, it depends on what the technology is. What's available on Amazon are Linux or Microsoft computing environments. So anything that runs on Unix or a Microsoft platform can be pretty easily brought up in the cloud on Amazon. Similarly, they've got there's great data migration, really just data transfer facilities to bring your data into an Agile data warehouse. But generally speaking, anything that runs on a Linux Unix machine or Microsoft Windows operating system will run just fine on the web. They're really on the cloud. There's really no great restriction. Amazon is not a proprietary environment. It is a wide open environment. Pretty much anything you can do in your own data center, you can do on Amazon, and you can even connect applications between your own data center and Amazon applications. So certainly contact us if you have more detailed questions, but I wouldn't consider there to be any restriction in moving existing applications onto the cloud. It's being done very broadly today.
Okay. Good. Well, we still have over 100 people on, so I'm going to go with one more round and then we'll end the webinar. So we've got another question for JasperSoft. There's just been so many great questions coming in. Do you want to handle that one, Andrew?
Sure. There's one right here that was about the charts that they saw. Is that in Flash? And yes, the answer is pretty short and sweet. Yes, it is. And let us know if that meets your requirements or if you have other requirements as well.
Okay. Okay, we've got another question for Vertica. So Dave, how about you take that one?
Sure. So there's a question about loading data into the cloud. And clearly the bandwidth of loading data into the cloud isn't going to be as high as the bandwidth of loading data locally. But one of the nice things about the Vertica architecture is that you don't need to load all your data before you get started. We can load and query simultaneously. So the strategy most people employ if they have a large amount of data is to load the most recent data first and basically just load history as time permits. So you load your most recent data. As soon as you've got a critical mass of data, you can turn the system on and then continue loading history over whatever period of time is necessary. And that way you can get value out of the system right away.
Okay, good. Another question came in for RightScale. So Yuri, go ahead with that one.
Thank you, Elise. So let me read the question here. Does RightScale fully manage Amazon EC2 instances for me, i.e. installation and maintenance of software, backups of files and databases, parentheses, also offsite, OS patches, create Linux usernames, etc. RightScale provides a whole host of automation, excuse me, a whole host of automation to make it a lot easier to quickly stand up environments. So you can use pre-built components like what you saw here, quickly stand up a Vertica database, the Talent ETL, the JasperSoft reporting engine without you knowing how to install everything and configure the different pieces to work together. So lots of automation around that, and then there's additional things like automation for backing up and snapshotting databases and things like that. So the short answer is yes, there's a ton of things you can do there, but I do want to draw a clear distinction. RightScale is not a fully managed hosting server. You still need your own sysadmin for your own servers, and you need to have somebody on your team that knows what they're doing. What we provide a lot of value in is that they don't need to, we reduce the amount of time it takes to do the original setup and then the ongoing day-to-day work to keep the systems going, and also the reproducibility. You can quickly redo what you had before because it's all encoded into the server configurations that are saved into the system. It's almost like a configuration database that you have that's a part of it. But you do need to have a server guy, let's call it, that's part of your team.
Okay, thanks, Yuri. Let's take this one last question then, and we'll wrap it up. This is for full 360.
Great. We've had a couple of questions around the Amazon pricing. And I just need to clarify a little bit. There are a number of different pricing plans available with Amazon. The two primary ones that we mentioned today, one is an on-demand. So for, say, a medium-sized server, if you came in for 3 hours at 17 cents an hour, it'd be one level of charge. And then there are extended instances where you sign up for say all 720 hours in a month, and you get your $22 charge. So there's a variety of different options available there, depending on what length of time you commit to and how often you use it. So what I would recommend is for people that have more questions on this is just to contact us directly, and we can do a sample configuration for you, and you can see exactly what it might cost.
Okay. Thanks, Larry. All right. Well, we'll wrap up the webinar now, and I want to say thank you to everyone for presenting. I think we got a lot of really useful information out there, as we can tell by all these questions that came in. And thank you to everyone for attending today. Please remember that the recording will be on RightScale's website, and it should be up there within the next day or so. And then we'll be taking all your questions and making sure that we answer them and following up with you directly if we did not. So thanks again, and that's the end of the webinar.
Thank you, Elise.